Oh no.
Okay, so I'm recording for you now.
Okay.
The only exception to the rule of confidentiality would be if you shared anything with me or if anything gave me concern for the immediate safeguarding of a child or a vulnerable
Yeah.
adult, in which case my trigger is to speak to Kate. She's my safeguarding lead, and we would have a conversation and then come back to you. It's
Yeah.
never happened, but that's the only time that I would share anything without your permission. If
Sure.
I ever spoke about this to anyone else in any way for getting advice, I wouldn't identify you unless you asked.
Mhm.
Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah, all sounds fine.
Brilliant. I'm not a legal advisor. I'm not a trained solicitor. I'm an advocate, and I give you support, advice, help on that basis. That okay?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine too. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Okay. So what do you want to get out of our time together this morning? What do you want to achieve in the next hour?
I am at the stage where we have and we have an EHCP finally agreed. It took them a year.
Okay.
Um, but I do have a very supportive coordinator. I did a parental application.
Mm-hmm.
And she agrees with me that we should ask for EOTAS. There isn't another option for my daughter Emma. I'll tell you what I want to get out of it, then I can give you some background to Emma. But so really, we've got a panel on the 4th of September. I've been using your templates from your webinars, and I've managed to put as much. I think I've managed to do a decent job of taking the stuff from the Ed Psych report and the HCP. There are many reports, but the majority of the input, the stuff that kind of goes into the my understanding anyway, the bit that the bit that's not waffle in the EHCP, the bit that's more, that you can hold them to, seems to come mostly from the Ed Psych report at the moment.
Yeah.
So when they go to the panel, I suppose what I'm looking for is what to expect when they go to the panel, and I am expecting perhaps not to get it straight away and have to go to appeal. So I suppose that's where I'm at in the process. We've got an EHCP. She can't use it. I can tell you a bit more about her in a minute. She's going to need EOTAS and what to do for the next stage. The EHCP came through as the first final on the 31st of July. So I think I'm still well within the appeal window.
Yeah, you are, yeah.
I haven't appealed yet. And I'm not quite sure what to do with that. I've basically been spending the last 2 weeks trying to do your template. It's hard work, isn't it?
It is. It's a lot. It's a lot. Have you
It
found
is a lot.
templates helpful? Have they given you some structure to work to?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I've got to pull out my Ed Psych report. Well, it's not mine; it's the local authority one. But he was really nice, apart from some pretty rubbish, not very autism-friendly language at times. But I had it reviewed by Send Family Instincts, and they picked up quite a lot of good points. And my coordinator changed it all according to what they suggested. So
Okay.
we have neuroaffirmative language in it now.
Brilliant. Okay.
So I've used the language from the EHCP, but predominantly how I did it was I took the Ed Psych report, worked through that with your template, then read back the EHCP with my template to make sure that they had put everything in the EHCP as well. And that's how I've done it. And
okay. And so
yeah.
So the final that you had issued on the 31st of July,
Yeah.
is that as you want it? Like apart from the detail of EOTAS,
it is really. Yeah, it is really. I mean, from my sort of inexperienced eye, but have had it paid for the full review of it.
Good.
I could see where they were coming from in the review. It was, and the coordinator she always has been pretty good, actually. She went off sick, unfortunately, for 2 or 3 months, which was another part of the delay in getting the thing agreed. The only thing I don't really like, which apparently I don't think there's anything I can do about it, is they have put in this one in section, they've put general further education. I'm looking for the in the placement section I. They can't name one. Even if they couldn't name one, to be honest, because nothing She's my daughter's 16, so she would be going into year 12. She had a massive burnout in year 10. We'd only found out, again, everything so far we've had to do privately, although we are finally getting some CAMS support. And obviously this EHCP is theoretically local authority support, finally. But it's taken the best part of 2 years to get there for either of those. But so at the end of year 10, she was still attending full time, but obviously to massive detriment to her mental health. And she's really academic, and she has a whole set of mocks, all at grades 7 to 9. God knows how she did it. And then a month later, she was in this massive burnout. So by the start of year 11, having gone through the school of rubbish, unfortunately, they just wanted her to go to the hospital school, which we would have been happy with, because it was all based around anxiety. But they only had one place for 6 pupils, and it was basically batted straight back to, she just has to go back to school. They didn't offer any alternative provision at that point. And whether or not we did the right thing, I'd had a massive battle with the school, doing all sorts of horrendous backdating of absences to unauthorised that they'd previously authorised. I've got an absolute shed load of medical information, and they just backdated it all to unauthorised. They basically did everything they could to put the attendance pressure on.
Yeah.
She was never going back there, in our opinion. So we just decided to electively home educate, but I did put in writing, this is only because there is no provision. This is not that, just to protect her mental health, and to be honest, mine as well. Because it was like, I either look after her or I fight them. And they're a grammar school, very academic grammar school, and Senko put in writing to me, we do not have a quiet, safe space for Emma to access because we are a mainstream school. So I think I'm just trying to give you the perspective of how big a mountain there was to climb there.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't have passes for lessons. No, don't do that. No. She'll have to talk to 3 different adults to get any help with Lee. She ended up, I'm trying not to waffle through our entire hour of our trauma, but she was shutting down in lessons. She doesn't have an outward presentation, it's all inward. She was shutting down and incredibly anxious. So what they wanted her to do is ask a teacher for help, walk down the corridor to reception and tell them what the problem was, sit in the corridor and wait for the pastoral team to come and collect her. I mean, utterly impossible.
Yeah, ridiculous.
So when it was last September, we talked about it a lot, my husband and I, like, what battles do we want? And I'd already got the EHCP parental application in. They agreed it immediately. So I thought, well, that's going on. Let's just take her out and help her get better. So she's in a situation where she didn't take any GCSEs. She wasn't well enough. She still isn't well enough. And even if the local college said, well, we've got this course she can come to with no GCSEs, she's not in the right mental place to do that, to mental health wise. And also, she's incredibly academic. So I don't actually know if level 1 at our local college is the right route for her. It might be with the right recovery, she'll do a different route altogether. So we can't really decide at this stage. The important bit is to continue to get her better and to continue to recover. So she can't use I'm really glad we've got the EHCP. It gives her time. It gives her till she's 25. I understand all that. But actually, right now, it's unusable because she can't access anywhere. So, that's a bit of background anyway.
And is she making a recovery? Does she look to be coming out of burnout? How's her mental health now?
We've had, it's pretty hard at the moment because we're taking her off. She's had a really bad 6 months on sertraline, the antidepressant.
Yeah.
she tried, we went privately last May after being told by CAMS, well, yes, she's on our waiting list. Yes, she should stay on our waiting list, but it's going to be at least another 6 months. So we went privately, and the first, we stayed with the same clinical partners all the way through this, but we had two different psychiatrists because one left. The first one prescribed fluoxetine. She had no side effects, moderate improvement of her anxiety, but not very helpful with intrusive thoughts. And the second psychiatrist in January said, well, she's got OCD, which hadn't formally been diagnosed at that point, which I think she does with the intrusive thoughts, but she doesn't have any repetitive rituals. It's all thought-based, and it's all researching for reassurance or asking me for reassurance. And so she said sertraline's much better for that, and she can have a higher dose. Well, I honestly can't think, apart from maybe about a week in the last 6 months, where she's actually felt any benefits from sertraline. And looking at it now, you just think, how the hell have we let her try for so long on this? You just do, though. You keep thinking, well, the next dose up, and then you wait 6 weeks, and then anyway, the long and short of it is, she went up to, her highest was 150 milligrams, and she had horrible suicidal thoughts, and we brought her back down off that. And the bit that is really distressing for her, and I'm hopeful from what I read that it will go soon when she gets off this stuff, is she's lost her special interest motivation. She's really dampened. I don't know if you've ever come across this with. So I'm not sure. I don't think that happened with fluoxetine as much, because she's really artistic. I always think your video, not your videos, your illustrations you have, always make me smile, because it's a very similar sort of thing that she would do. And she, last year, we've got sketchbooks from the fluoxetine times, and from prior to that, she'd never dropped drawing. Whereas looking at what she's done since January, it's all like started, stopped, didn't do anything through a month. It's like, looking back, you think, well, how did we not notice how rubbish this is for her? I don't know if that makes sense.
It does make absolute sense. And the thing with special interests is that engaging in special interests is part of like healthy burnout recovery.
Absolutely.
Because it gives her brain a rest, and it gives her those dopamine boosts, and it gives her those glimmers. So it sounds it's
been a train wreck since January in that respect, and we're all on our knees with it, if I'm honest. Because that was the thing last year when I first told her, she never actually did any school, horrible word, school refusing. I told her she wasn't going in, because she kept going, and I said, you're not well enough. I just told her she was off sick for a bit initially. But when that special interests were everything to that point, and it's carry on. Sorry.
I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist and I'm not a doctor, but I have seen young people, when the meds haven't been a right fit for them, basically it kind of, like you say, takes the edge off all the things that give you joy, and that can be really difficult when you're in a really bad state, with your mental health. You need things that are an escape for you. So so in terms of, you've got your final plan, and it's going, and it's the personal budget request that's going to panel, is it?
Yes. I mean, what I'm sort of understand it as being like EOTAS personal budget combination. What is in my plan is pretty much things she's doing right now already, because we have got her. She's with a neurodivergent psychotherapist who has ADHD herself, and we've been with her we see her together for the last year, and she's been very good. Her approach is very much validation as an autistic person, understanding yourself as an autistic person, which I know is really essential. She has no problem with being autistic. When you got the diagnosis, it was very helpful to her, and she does own it. She's quite happy to be autistic, and all the great things about her are because she's autistic, apart from this bloody sertraline that's damped it all down. But so she has animals now, this therapist, and she's expanding her offer in September to more animal therapy. So I've got kind of psychotherapy and animal therapy through a current provider, she's doing Mind Jam, which I'm sure you probably come across, and once a week, and they're coming back to me with, hopefully this week, with a proposal for twice a week for the local authority, because we wouldn't be able to fund twice a week. And they also offer they've expanded their education offering as well, which you may know. So there's options for her to do other things other than just mentoring with them, if that's where she wants to go with it, if we've got 2 sessions. And there is another thing which there's an alternative provision provider that the coordinator sent me a list of all the alternative provisions she could get from the local authority, people they've used before. And I went through it and found really there's only one was suitable, but it's very suitable, I think. It's around art-based, it's anxiety-based, it's working with children or pupils, students who've got a diagnosis of anxiety. So that would be a sort of another set day a week there, if they agree with that. And I've got the lady coming next Monday to meet us. So their provision fits very much with all the stuff in the Ed Sykes report. So things like developing key relationships with a trusted adult, the feeling safe, helping her manage her own anxiety levels, all the small group settings, all the low arousal stuff.
And are those things that you just mentioned there, are they in your outcomes in section E of your plan?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Because what you want to make sure that you do is, however you choose to do this, but it can be helpful when you're putting your personal budget request in, to make sure that you're really clear about, this is the outcome and this is the provision we're requesting to meet this outcome. Does that make sense? Because so just making sure
that might be what I haven't. Using your template, I have got outcomes and objectives, which are sort of from the outcomes bit, and then the provision, the type of provision, but not in that bit. I haven't named anything, but I've named it in the list, the proposed provision list. So would it be worth writing down how each provider meets the objectives?
I would list the outcomes. So on your outcome section in section E, just number them in section E. On a like I put it, like, make it as idiot proof as you can. Put it in on these are the outcomes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many you've got. And then for each provider, put what the provision is, put what you're asking for, put what the cost is, and put working towards outcome, and then number the outcomes.
Okay.
So basically showing them that what you're asking for is provision to meet the outcomes.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah, I'm just going to have a quick look at this section here while we're speaking, so I don't just nod and go, oh, yeah.
Because that's the bit where it can sometimes fall down. You think you've got, it's all in F and it's all, but then when the panel are looking at personal budget, your personal budget has to be tied to your outcomes. So if you just do that little bit of putting that thread through for them, it makes it a bit less.
The outcomes is very much what I've put in your template, and I've done it word for word from how they've worded it, but I don't think I haven't fully idiot proofed the last bit. I've listed the providers and said what they do, and I know how they're going to meet the outcomes, but I get what you're saying. So just have another idiot proof
for them to not understand.
I think it was you. I like the way you said, do their job for them, but it is doing their job for them.
It absolutely is, especially because you can't be at panel and you can't rely on other people to understand the plan or your child as well as you do. So you have to make it as watertight as possible.
I mean, I'm just glancing through it now. Everything I've written down to do with outcomes is exactly in the final, in their words, and I'm absolutely sure I can link it to these providers.
Brilliant. And have you got, I know you'll have used the templates that's the current provider and the new provider for them to provide detail of what they're going to give. Have you done that? Have you used those?
I'm in early stages with that. So Mind Jam are on it. she's coming back to me, no problem, sort of
They're
soon.
great. Yeah.
Unfortunately, the psychotherapist is on holiday for another week. I've emailed it to her already and asked her, can you just do this? And I'm hoping she'll do it when she comes back. I mean, it's going to be a bit of a time. So the coordinator is saying to me things like, it would be great to have this as soon as possible. She's told me the panel date, so she said, so you do have some time. She won't give me a deadline. I wish she'd say to me, if we've got this by the day before the panel, that's okay. But she's not
Usually
really saying.
the panel have their documents circulated a week in advance.
Okay.
So usually if they're meeting on a Thursday, normally they have the meeting on the Thursday, and then on the Friday, the documents are circulated for the following week if they meet weekly. They might not meet weekly. You could ask your caseworker for the panel's terms of reference. There'll be a document, and that will tell you how often they meet, who's on the quorum, and you'll get a bit more of an idea of, if you've got a date, you'll be able to see whether they meet every week or whether they meet every fortnight. And also, if you ask for the terms of reference, it makes it look like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So just ask them to send you a copy of the panel's terms of reference, because it will also give you like what their procedure is if things aren't agreed and that kind of stuff.
Yes, because that's what I'm thinking of. I know on the 4th of September, I'm not expecting. You never know, but I'm not expecting them to come back with, okay, then that's fine, you can have that. I'll need to do something next. I'm guessing I need to go to appeal. I would imagine if they.
So what have they put in section I on your plan?
So at the moment they have put nothing in the name of placement, and under type of institution, general further education.
Okay. But they haven't got a placement for her for September.
No, because she couldn't go to sixth form. She has no GCSEs. And so even if she wanted to go to sixth form, no sixth form will take her. The other option is our local college, Wirral Met, who are brilliant. I have been myself to them on an open evening without her. And they know more about my daughter from me, and their additional support team know more about her and put more of an interest in her than her grammar school did in 4 years. But that really is her only local general further education. And she might love doing their art and design level 3 eventually. She might. It's really potentially what she might do. But I can't work that out for her at this stage. It's like saying you haven't got any GCSEs, you've had a year out and had no time to think about your future. She wasn't able to as well. One of her particular terrors and fears right at the start was fear of time passing. So we couldn't talk about anything. We still can't really. Can and can't. She just doesn't know.
So what you want to think about is get ahead of the idea, get ahead of where you might be with panel, because I expect that panel it sounds like it's your regular panel. It's not. So at panel, they look at all the EHCPs, they go through, they go, yeah, this is approved, or this is the setting for that one, or this is what we have to agree for that. So what you want to be doing is getting ahead of them and saying, right, I know that really now, your position would be that you're about to name a setting. There isn't a setting, and this is why. So I would provide a document that evidences why it would be inappropriate for her to be educated in a school or college setting currently. That's in line with the piece of legislation that makes the OTAS possible. So that it would be inappropriate for her to be educated in a school or college setting currently because, and then you want to think about what evidence you have. So I expect you've got stuff in your EP report, maybe have you got stuff from your psych? Have you got written reports from your psych?
I've got a psychotherapist report. Okay. She did it in March for me, and she actually, and it's been submitted and it's listed as a document on the EHCP. And she writes things like, Emma, I do not believe Emma would manage in a mainstream setting at the moment.
So I've also put that across. So basically your pack that's going to panel, the front page is, this is why I'm asking for a personal budget with an education otherwise than a school arrangement, because Emma cannot currently. It would not be appropriate for Emma to currently be educated in a school or college setting. Here's the supporting evidence from my professionals. This is what she is currently accessing. This is what I'm asking for. I'd state that you're asking for a 12-month arrangement with a personal budget with a view to reviewing it for her
Yeah.
next stage of education.
Yeah, because that's definitely true. If you think my request doesn't really include a lot of academics.
No,
She's very academic, but
it's about getting her ready.
it's about
it?
getting her ready to become academic again.
Yeah.
If she wants to be, or creative. I have absolutely zero issue with the route she goes. I just want it to be her choice.
Have you got anything in your plan around preparation for adulthood? So accessing
No,
the community, independent living, finance, travel. Have you got anything like that in your plan?
no. I wanted to ask you a bit about this because Send Family Instinct said I should request a social care assessment. I have done. I've had the first telephone call with a social worker who was really nice and didn't totally understand the problem because she's so dependent on me. And she said, yes, you should have a level 4 assessment, I think. The problem has been recently, and I've copied the EHCP coordinator in on my email replies. I had a phone call from a trainee, I think she said student social worker, at 5:20 one afternoon. Can I come and see you tomorrow? No. I mean, I understand that's how they work, and I've read all about it. That when it's like child protection, and it's it's children at risk, they don't give notice, but this is a disabled child.
It's not a safeguarding concern, though.
She's not. I mean, she's seen by so many flipping professionals in person, and at least 2 have been to the house in the last 12 months. So she isn't a safeguarding concern, and she's autistic, and she's anxious. So I need to give her notice of somebody coming to the house, and I've put this in writing. This is in writing on an email yesterday, because she won't make an appointment at the moment. She won't make an appointment with me in advance. So I'm not trying to obstruct a social care assessment, but with the time frame we're in, and
you've requested it as well.
Yes, I requested it. Yeah.
Is she a disability social worker?
I don't know because I haven't spoken to her. She's a student.
I think what you probably need to do is, have you sent that email already?
Yeah.
See what you get back, but I would be clarifying that it's a self-referral for a social care assessment on the grounds of disability.
I did put. I have kept saying this is a disability assessment.
And ask for a disability social worker, because it should be carried out by a disability social worker.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need this, and I think Emma needs this. I just don't think we're going to get anything like this in time for the panel.
Probably not. I mean, your social care is a separate. As a disabled young adult, she will be entitled to 2 hours a week of short breaks provision. So most councils, they cost that in at like 10 quid odd an hour, and it would allow you to pay someone for 2 hours a week for respite or support. But the process is quite lengthy, and then you've obviously got to recruit someone. But actually, strictly speaking, the EHCP should have preparation for adulthood in her education as well. The reason I'm asking is it might be worth, and I know it's another thing to think about, and it's another person to contact, but I'm wondering whether it's worth having a conversation with Raising a Wild Child. Are you familiar with them?
Yeah, I've come across them. Yeah.
So
I'll just give you a little, just another thing of what we do have. I mean, it's not exactly preparation for adulthood, but one of the best things in her life at the moment is our local autism charity. So she has 2 social groups with them. She's only been able to access them been able to make herself go in quite recently, but it's very good for her. Brilliant. And I've included that in the proposal, because although it's incredibly inexpensive at £3 a session, I've put the travel costs for me into it as well, and that's quite eye-watering when going twice a week and doing these things. So I know that's not really social care. I'm sort of thinking that there's the social care that's continuing in. I know the 4th of September is not kind of an end point. It's like we're just on a long rolling program now, aren't we? And we'll just keep reviewing and reviewing until she's 25, I guess, or doesn't need it. But there's the social care thing, and I am determined she'll get I think we should have the assessment, but with the right person. There's also it's been she's never had, and she hasn't yet had a sensory assessment, a sensory
Just like, oh, what's the matter?
So Alicia messaged Anna.
1 second, sorry, 1 sec.
That's all right.
Sorry.
That's okay, don't worry.
Go on, you were saying, yeah, your social care
She
assessment and-
hasn't had a sensory OT assessment, and I've got a quote for one, and I've included it in the ask. I don't know if this is going to go on and on. I think we'll probably end up paying for it, if I'm honest, because it's what we wanted to have. She has huge sensory issues, which we don't even know. It's probably the biggest part, one of the biggest parts of her burnout. She's like hyper empathic, she's noise sensitive, she's heat sensitive, she's got a visual impairment and ocular albinism, which makes her light sensitive. She's got so many different things that we're sort of partially aware of, but
has she had an NHS OT assessment?
No, it's been requested by the coordinator for the EHCP, because she's waited 20 months from me going to the GP and the GP referring to CAMHS. We're still only at the
triage.
She's done triage. We've got a key worker. We've seen her 3 times. She's referring her to the psychiatry team, which I'm pleased about, because at least we get an NHS psychiatrist face to face. I'm not sure she's going to stay on medication, if I'm honest. I mean, but anyway, we get the review. They're also, I mean, let's be hopeful on this. Wirral CAMHS have put together a 12-week group program for neurodiverse children to meet. So they have 4 blocks and 3 sessions a block with clinical psychologists, and actually our therapist has trained some of it, so she can give me a bit of validation on that. And instead of being one-to-one therapy, it's sort of got all these different things in it, which maybe good. I don't know, we'll see. So that's where we are with CAMHS. I mean, she's not got anywhere near a paediatrician yet. She's on that pathway as well for diagnosis. The
only challenge you might have, legally, you can't have an assessment specified in an EHCP.
Okay.
But if you can make a case for a private assessment, in terms of, you kind of need to be able to say to panel, we can evidence that her sensory challenges are such that they're going to be a significant barrier, and until we get her support for her sensory challenges, we're not going to be able to move her back into education. So for that reason, I would like you to release funding for a sensory assessment.
I'm just writing that down. Yeah.
Or fast track her if the local authority do have sensory trained OTs. They may not.
Yeah, this is the thing. I don't really want to.
Not all of them.
I'm not up for sort of throwing money after things if we don't have to, but we've managed to find somewhere via our psychotherapist who've got a Warrington office, and so because face to face is essential, she can't do online. She just can't cope with it. And they have given me a quote. So my feeling is it's probably better just to get the ball rolling on that and use decent quality people rather than wait another 6 months and find out, get to an NHS OT who says, oh no, I'm not a sensory OT.
I kind of feel like you might have to think, okay, so the things that we need to fund right now are the things that we already have in place that I can evidence that are working for her, that are like, these are my non-negotiables. Get that agreed at personal budget at panel, and then potentially go to appeal and flesh out the rest of the detail of your EHCP. For example, with your sensory OT, because you're not going to get sensory OT into your plan without either reviewing the plan or appealing the plan.
Yeah.
Or mediation, depending on the time scale. But even then, you're not going to get seen in time for mediation anyway. And
what's in section E for sensory is she should have staff should undertake a sensory profile so say she went to a setting, she should have a sensory profile done within that setting so they understand her sensory needs. I don't, how are they qualified to do that? They're not qualified to do that, are they?
No.
I mean, they can say, oh, mum says she needs to have her headphones on, which I will if she needs them.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm no sensory OT.
Actually, until you've had a full sensory assessment, you don't know what's going on. You know, autistic brains are wired for sensory stimulation in an entirely different way, and that's why it needs a specialist. And like you say, stuff will come up that you don't even know, like the headphones and the being able to be near a door and the being able to have dimmable lights is like basic level entry stuff. She's probably got, but it's children normally who have burnt out from school normally have pretty complex sensory profiles. That's usually part of the problem. Not the problem, but you know what I mean. So why they
it's the difficulties, isn't it?
So I mean, you can ask, but I wouldn't necessarily. You might get them saying, yeah, okay, then we'll do that. But legally, you can't have an assessment detailed in an HCP.
So I think what I'm hearing you saying, and I can see this, is that if we evidence what we've got now, plus the extra bit, which is we haven't, because that's they approved them already. And they're phenomenal value for money. £55 for 9 till 2. It's it's incredible. So I can't see them objecting to that additional one. Link it to her outcomes clearly, and then go for get funded what we've got now, and then sort of flesh it out or improve it as we go along, with potentially with the social care bit. Maybe that'll kick in, because the other thing I've got to consider for Emma is she can't cope with too much assessment all in one go.
No, it's a lot.
It's too much to say, oh, and then you're seeing this person, and then you're seeing this person, and then we're going to have this meeting. It's too much, and she potentially burns back out again, and
does it say in the plan what her primary need is? Does it say her primary need is social, emotional, mental health, or does it say her primary need is autism?
Where would they say state primary
need? It would be, they don't always do it, but it would be in section B if it was.
Section B, let's have a look. If I was, my instinct is to say social and communication. But areas of need, you mean?
Does it say what her primary? Sometimes
Emma has a diagnosis of autism spectrum condition and presents with significant social communication needs.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty much around social communication.
So it doesn't detail a lot of sensory in section B.
No.
Okay. So if and when you need to appeal, you're appealing on the basis that you don't think that all needs have been identified. So that gives you grounds for appeal.
That makes sense. Okay, hold on a second. Appealing on the basis.
One of my pieces of work that will probably be done in time for you to use is actually a how to fill in an appeal form for EOTAS. So it's on my list. It's my next piece for the marble run. So that'll be up in fairly soon, hopefully. I've just got to give myself some time to do it.
So if we went in kind of, like we said, not simple, but what we've got now, what's working.
This is what I'm currently paying for that I want you to pay for.
Yes.
And this is the other stuff that I know we need and I can evidence in a personal budget. This is the personal budget I'm asking for the next 12 months. I'm happy to do an early review. Or I can appeal if you want me to.
Okay. Because of her age, the coordinator,
she'll be due a review, won't she?
She said
make sure by the end of March.
Make sure we're talking to each other at the start of 2024 because of her age. So
because she'll be due a transition review for September 24.
Yeah.
Which means that her plan has to be finished by the 31st of March 23.
24. Yeah. So it would be more. Let me say, to see if I'm right. It would be better to have what we've got now paid for from September. Then keep gathering as much evidence. Maybe we do the OT assessment because the people are good. I love what they say on their website about trauma, about all this sort of thing, which is really all of Emma's problems are all as we can imagine, trauma. So yeah, the OT stuff, the social care, we'll
get that to inform your review. But what you can do in the meantime, there's two things I want to say to you before I forget.
Yeah.
Down. Hang on.
No, it's all right.
I've written it down just on your square beside it. What you can do in the meantime is you're in your appeal window. So what you can do is you can say, right, I want this to go to panel. This is the request I'm making. I want you to fund what I'm already funding and these extra things that I can evidence that she needs on the basis that it's education otherwise than at school, and we'll review it for her transition review, right? In the meantime, you can lodge an appeal. You don't have to pursue the appeal all the way, but if you use your appeal window now and get it in, if the wheels come off, you will at least have a date for tribunal, because tribunals are taking about a year.
Right,
to get for dates. So
that
if you
makes a lot of sense
now,
then.
it's going to be September time, probably that next year before it's heard.
Now, and that might be good timing in a way.
It could be good timing if and your review and your appeal can happen alongside each other. So you can be in appeal for the previous year's plan, and the working document for appeal can become the document that you work off at review. If you've got everything agreed that you want at review, you just cancel the appeal.
Yeah, sure.
But if you don't, you've got an appeal open.
That makes a lot of sense. It does. It does, because I think, and in terms on a personal level, we don't really want Emma to do much more than she's doing now. And if she's able to, I'd like to add in this other thing, this other sort of emotional anxiety art. It's where she hasn't got any art going on at the moment, and I would like that.
The thing is, you can ask for it, get it agreed in your personal budget. Whether she's accessing it or not will make it's that she's provided with it. And if you've got a personal budget, and if you get a direct payment, for example, if you're paying for it yourself, at the end of the year, if you haven't spent it all, you give it back. So it's not, but it's better to have it and not use it than to not have it and need it. So it is that delicate balance. The other thing I wanted to mention to you was, it sounds like you're doing all of this delivery. It sounds like you're the person facilitating, getting her to things, taking her to things. So
my full-time job.
I know that that's how that works. There's two things to be aware of. Practically speaking, for you, there's an impact on you as a parent and as a carer. And I'm sure you're already aware of that. But also at appeal, legally, apart from in extenuating circumstances, parents can't be responsible for the delivery of the content of an EHCP. So legally, the local authority should be providing her with a mentor to support her to access all of this. So she should have a trusted adult who she can build a relationship with, who is not a parent or not a primary carer. The idea being, well, there's two reasons. First of all, it's open to fraud, not that you're in any way fraudulent, but it is. But the other thing is that the thinking being that we're trying to move a child or a young person towards independence. And so to do that, we need to expand their circle of trust. And that means bringing new adults in who they can build a trusting relationship with, to evidence and to help them scaffold building new relationships. So it's perhaps not something to think about now, but it might be something to think about when you get to annual review, depending on what her future arrangement is going to look like. If it's anything like us, so we had a year of EOTAS and we had a mentor, but actually Theo's mentor has been more helpful since he went back to college than they were during that year, because they're helping him plan his travel, buy his bus pass, practice getting on the train, all of that stuff. That you also need to think about. And like, heaven forbid, but this is what has been our situation. My physical health took such a turn that I couldn't continue to support him with his EOTAS. So what's going to happen if that happens?
Absolutely.
So it might be worth, you might not get it at this point, but it's something that an OT can make a recommendation for. That a learning support mentor is usually the language that I recommend that you go with. And it's a trusted adult to facilitate them accessing all of that's in their plan that is not a parent or a primary carer.
And where do you normally find learning support mentors? I mean, in terms of trusted adult, not to do what you've just described, and I totally agree with you, but she trusts her psychotherapist, she trusts her Mind Jam mentor, and it's nice that we have, and that's in a lot in her EHCP. Trusted adult is a repeated theme. The lady who's coming to the house sounds like for this additional provision, she's coming to build a relationship and obviously check us out as well, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But you says it where, I suppose what I'm saying is where do you source somebody like that from?
Well, that's the challenge. So in theory, the LA should do it for you, and they don't. So we've sourced our own. We actually ended up using someone who we knew, kind of not a family friend, but I used to walk the dog with her. But she's become like part of our circle of trust, basically. The reason I mentioned Raising a Wild Child is because their mentoring program does something similar. They recruit people to work with individual students one-on-one, and they build that relationship over time. And it's usually someone, depending on the child or young person's needs, but it's usually someone who is experienced in education but is trauma informed and neurodivergent affirming, and they build a therapeutic relationship, and then it can then become an education or a tutoring relationship if needed.
I get you.
And
so
it might be,
can they do that nationally then?
Yeah, they work nationally.
Is that a bit like Nudge? I've heard of Nudge.
Yeah. People have difficulties with Nudge because Nudge are very kind of, it depends on the area. So some areas Nudge provision is great, and other areas it's awful. So it kind of,
I've just had a thought while we're talking. Actually, we are really fortunate on the Wirral with Autism Together. They are flipping amazing, really. I hadn't realized until we got into it how good they are, and they may be able to point me in the right direction, because they have a lot of they always call them people we support who have quite complex and mental needs and learning disabilities, residential care and all that sort of thing. But they do good programs for children and family services as well, which is what we've got involved in. So that might be a route for me, because I'd be like you. I want, and I am pushy. I know I am pushy, but I want the person. I have to rate them, otherwise they're not doing it.
Person. It's got to be the right person. It's always about the relationship. It's never really about what they're doing.
No.
Because the other thing to consider is, when and if you get a sensory OT assessment, have them make some recommendations around preparation for adulthood, because an OT can do that.
Yeah.
So they can make recommendations about accessing the community, independent travel, self-care, nutrition. And what we did, our case for our learning support mentor was based on OT recommendations. So
that makes sense.
The same age as Emma is now when we got our OT task. So it was based on, okay, well, currently he can't leave the house. He can't be left on his own in the house. Not because he was dangerous, but just because his mental health was such that those things weren't possible. He can't access the community. He can't go to the shop on his own. He can't travel independently. No. And he needed all of that to even be able to consider returning to mainstream. So
absolutely, yeah, that's a good point you've made, because I'm sure you can relate to this. You get so used to what you've got now, you forget what it should be like.
Yeah,
I mean, I've got a 20-year-old as well who has found his tribe at Warwick University doing maths. Totally.
My best friend went to Warwick University.
Yeah, we laugh a bit because he's never been assessed, but he loves maths, he loves trains. He comes out with stuff, and everyone will go, and I'm the one you had tested. But we don't, he is just he's going. It's all going well, brilliant. But you forget, she can't do exactly what you've just listed. How the heck is she supposed to go to Wirral Met College when she can't get the train on her own?
Yeah, that's where we are with Theo at the moment. I've been driving him to college for a year, and it's 40 minutes each way, because he can't. We're getting towards now. He's finally like, I might get the bus. You're like,
oh, good for him.
But it's taken a year, 18 months of working with Carol, getting on the bus a couple of times a week, every week. Because there's quite
because in my head, I think I'm going to have to do all that. But you're right, that's not desirable for her, because
and that's not preparation for adulthood.
It's not, and
with all the will in the world, no 18-year-old wants to be getting dropped off at university by their mum every day.
No.
I mean, it's fine if that's required, but if with support she was able to do that independently or codependently, whatever that looks like, then that would be a preference, wouldn't it? So
yes,
I think potentially that's something really helpful to think about in your
OT review.
Yeah.
No, that I really get my head around that. That makes a lot of sense. because that's what we want for her. In fact, our psychotherapist said, what do you want Emma's life to look like when she's 25? And my husband and I talked it through, and we don't actually have any desires for her work or her study or any of that. We want happy and independent. That's all we want, because she will find her own way.
She'll find a way if she can do that. Yeah, exactly.
She's a clever girl. If she's happy and independent, she'll find her roots into whatever she needs to do, and we'll support her in that. But
and I think there's a fine line as well between, you know, our definition of independence will probably be very different to a neuronormative definition of independence. I don't mean that you're going to kick her out when she turns 18 and she's going to live, but that's not going to happen. Like I know that Theo will not move out until he finds somebody else to live with who will look after him like I do, you know, and he deserves to have the freedom to get on a train and go and see his friends if he wants to. So it's about being able to facilitate that. And that might mean that he needs someone on the phone with him the whole time. That's fine. But it's like working out for him what that looks like, you know. So I think in terms of you've absolutely got a case for appeal anyway, because you can appeal that all the needs haven't been recognised and you haven't got health and social care in your plan. That on its own is grounds for appeal. So you've got that, and your appeal window is 2 months from the date that your final plan was issued, or a month from the date of your mediation certificate being issued. So you've got 2 months to request a mediation certificate. So basically you need to take action by the 31st of August. No, 31st of September, either to request a mediation certificate, which will buy you another month, or to make your appeal. And I'd give yourself a week to file your appeal forms for all the faffing about and the getting.
And how do I practically make an appeal then?
It's a Send 35 form, which you download from, if you go to Sendist, it's a very straightforward form, and you basically fill in the details of your child, you attach the final plan and the mediation certificate. You have to request a mediation certificate in order to lodge an appeal, either to say you're engaged in mediation, it hasn't been successful, or you've decided not to pursue mediation. So before the 31st of September, you need to decide whether you're either going to go to mediation or request a mediation certificate. Mediation is helpful if you've got new advice, new evidence that hasn't been considered in the original plan. But if you're going to a conversation with exactly the same information as you already had, there's kind of no point. You're going to get the same answer.
No, it sounds like straight to appeal would be better based on the fact we haven't had all needs assessed, isn't it?
Yeah. So I would say, for safety, say middle of September, request a mediation certificate. Doesn't matter if you don't use it.
Where do I do that?
You call, like on your final plan, there'll be a thing that says you can request mediation, and it will tell you who the mediation company is. It's usually Global Mediation. They're like a national company. Call them up, give them the details of your child and say, I need a mediation certificate. Sometimes they'll be like, we need to go through, why are you not going to mediation, blah, blah, blah. And you just keep saying, I don't want to go to mediation. I understand that I'm rejecting the offer of mediation. And then you file a Send 35 form. And I will make sure that the how to file an appeal is done in time so that you can use my template. I've got it written, I've just got to actually do it. But yeah, it's a Send 35 form, and it doesn't need to be belt and braces. It's basically just I'm appealing it because all the needs haven't been assessed. These are the sections that I'm appealing. You can appeal sections B, F, and I, and you can also appeal social care and health. You can't appeal section J, which is your personal budget. So that's why it's a good idea to get as much as you can now. That's one of the holes in the, but then you do have grounds for complaint if they're not delivering everything in section F, if that makes sense. So, but yeah, so your step is request a mediation certificate, so you're ready to appeal. I would lodge an appeal anyway before the end of September. You've got it then. You've done it.
Yeah, I will.
You can always cancel it. Get your document ready for the panel, make it as foolproof as possible, and let them know that you are going to use your appeal window if you need to, but you're happy to go, you know, to do a phase transfer review if they understand if they, you know, agree a personal budget for you. And then you can roll the working document from the appeal into the review.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it does. It does. Yes, I can see my kind of what I need to do immediately, and then get it to the coordinator for the first bit. If I have things to follow on, if say let's say our psychotherapist comes up with something at the very close to the panel, I'll just send it on. If
You can
if I
always ask
can't,
them to bump panel back as well. You can always say,
yeah,
I've got some new evidence, actually. Would you mind pushing it back to the next date? But ask them for the terms of reference, and then you'll see how often they meet. Sometimes it's
yeah.
fortnightly and sometimes it's weekly. If it's weekly, just ask them to bump it back a
I
week.
think it's fortnightly, because I think she's told me that already, that they
Yeah.
meet fortnightly. But yeah, I can check that.
But also in your terms of reference, it will tell you what the procedure is if they need to make a decision in between meetings. They have to have that
Right.
in their terms of reference. Somebody on that panel has the authority to make decisions without actually meeting a panel.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. And I've got another appointment booked with you kind of late September on purpose,
Okay.
before before our before the appeal window ran out. So I'll probably be able to talk through with you what I'm doing with my appeal.
Definitely. And
In
what you
that one.
can do in the meantime, if you need to, if this is like, if there's some stuff and you're like, I just don't know, just email Jodie, use the password sausages, and ask her for my mobile number. And she'll give you my mobile number, and then you can WhatsApp me.
Okay, that's very kind.
I would give you it now, but I don't know where my phone is. Literally no idea. It's in the house somewhere, and I've got a new phone.
They're going to make me a t-shirt for our house. Where's my phone? I've lost my
Oh
phone.
my
In
God.
front of me.
I have two phones and I lose them both on a fairly regular basis. But if you need to WhatsApp me, that's the easiest way to contact me. And for people who are on the level that you're on Unstoppable Parent, I'm happy for you to message me and say, I just need to check this, on the understanding that I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. It'll be the same day. It just isn't always immediate. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, no.
But if you need that, just send an email to Jodie and say, Heidi said if I gave you the word sausages, you'd give me a mobile number, and then she'll give it to you.
Thank you. Okay, yes, I can do that. Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
tell anyone else that's what the password is.
No, I won't say what. No, I don't want you bombarded. My God, you'd never sleep, would you?
We have to have that process, because people will message and say, oh, can you? And then Jodie's like, this person. I'm like, I don't know who they are. But if I speak to people and say, tell her that you said sausages, then she knows that she can do the thing that they're asking.
I see. That does make sense. It's too overwhelming otherwise. Yeah.
Has this given you what you need from us today? Does this feel helpful? Do you feel like
this
you've got...
Definitely, this feels like I have now more work to do, thank you.
I know, I'm sorry about that.
No, but it means I can turn what I've done already into an even better thing, I think, to send for the panel. And
I'm happy to look at it for you as well. If you want to stick it on an email when it's ready, I'm happy to cast my eye over it. Just give me a couple of days. So, but yeah, if you want me to take a look at a draft, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. That'd be good. So hopefully it would be lovely to get some agreement in September for what we're already paying for, because everybody knows we're going to have to review it in the start of the new year. So,
and they've got no setting named for September, so they haven't really got a leg to stand on unless they're expecting to be able to find you a setting in the next 2 weeks.
There just isn't one.
Even, it's going to be, as it stands, they've got no setting named for in 2 weeks' time. She's got no setting, has she? So
no, there isn't one. I mean, she's electively home educated still, so I suppose they've got that to fall back on. That's if it all went to pot, and we would just continue to do it that way. But it's not really.
You can very easily say, I'm not electively home educating anymore. You're going to have to make provision.
Yeah, because it's not ideal for me to be everything. I mean, we've got so many other struggles at the moment with her sleep and her medication and her that I am the person that needs to do all of that. I can't do everything, and it's not fair for her either. So
no, and it definitely, you've got to do what you've got to do, but it impacts your relationship and the dynamic in the household when you're having to do all of this as well. And you deserve to have a parent-child relationship, and at the moment you're doing like admin and librarian and legal advisor and
it does impact. I mean, my husband's he's supporting me so I can support her, but that does take its toll on both of us. And he's very similar to her, probably very undiagnosed, similar to her, and so sometimes he's great for her because they can talk the same way.
Yeah.
But many times it's just impossible for her to engage with him because he can't flex around her like I can.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's ridiculous. It's the toughest thing I have ever done. And I have been through some stuff.
Do you know what, though? You've done the thing that I think many parents wish that they'd done, and made a decision based on what's in her best interest mental health wise earlier. Like, I think you've saved her some serious damage by making the decision you did, by pulling her out when you did. I speak to so many families who say, I wish I'd done that. So
yeah. I think if the pandemic hadn't happened, it was slightly good for her and absolutely terrible for her all at the same time. I think we'd have probably picked this up more in year 8 than we did, but we did it in year 10. But maybe had it not happened, she'd have kind of muddled through GCSEs and A levels. There's a really lovely woman who I messaged to do through the Autistic Girls Network. We do private messaging, and her daughter made it to the end of A levels, and then basically it took her 8 years to recover. She's doing great now. She's doing great. She's married. She's starting a degree. She's 26.
Ultimately, when someone's masking, the longer they mask, the harder to burn out. So
yeah. Fortunately for my daughter, she went to a small independent primary school, so life was not perfect. We can look back and see where she didn't feel right, and all her intrusive thoughts are around her being wrong in all sorts of ways. So she can feel guilty, she can feel overweight, she can feel everything in her OCD is that she is wrong. So she doesn't worry about like me dying or things like that. Everything is wrong. So I'm thinking now that, okay, can't medicate. She's not coping with medication, but that will hopefully get better as the trauma heals. And she starts
to feel comfortable being herself and not having to guess what is expected of her all the time.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, it's been so nice to spend some time with you, and I hope it's been helpful. And like I say, if you need to, email me. I will send you a recording of this. Just
thank you. Yes,
remind me what your email address is, Karen, and I'll send it across.
Karen.cpr at googlemail.com.
Okay. I'll send you a link across, and then you've got it. And then if you've got like transcript software, you can always throw it through that, and then you've got a transcript so you can pick out words if you need to.
Oh, right. Oh, I've got IT people in the house who can, husband should be able to work that out.
I say that like I know what I'm talking about, but apparently that's a thing. So yeah, okay, brilliant. I'll send it across to you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
I will.
We'll speak again in September, if not before.
Yes, thank you very much, Heidi.
All right, take care. Bye.
Bye.